Hey guys, and welcome back to DeeterPlays, and welcome back to the next episode of the Loomian PvP overview series. Now, this is the series where in each video, we cover one Loomian. We talk about it in great detail. We talk about the different type effectiveness, the moves that are recommended, like the best move set. We're going to look at the base stats. We're going to tell you how to TP train this, the recommended TP training, what items you should hold, and what personalities are the best for this guy to have him ready in PvP battle, him or her. So this, of course, is our Himbrr. This is number 18 on the Loomipedia. It is an ice type / earth type, so its strengths are ice and earth. So it has the awakening, just a normal ability. What it will normally have is the ability for any ice or earth moves to be strengthened. Now, instead of just its move ability being strengthened by like 25%, it will be 40% as a part of that ability, and that is just the normal ability that comes with it. It does possibly have a secret or hidden ability called Staunch. So if it's got that star in there and it is staunch, it means that its stats are not lowered by other moves or abilities. So if other people like try to use any stat lowering moves, none of those will work. They can't lower your melee attack, they can't lower your defense, they can't do any of that stuff. Now, I don't find that that's nearly as common in battle. I mean, it does happen every now and then, but I don't find that necessarily personally as hindering. So I think this one is almost better to just have the normal awakening as the ability and not even have the hidden ability. But that hidden ability is nice to have if you are in a battle and somebody's trying to lower your stats. Okay, so now, as far as what this is effective against and what it's not effective against. So what its effectiveness as far as the chart, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be, it's unable to like battle against one of these in PvP. So we're going to talk about this specifically. As far as major weaknesses go, there is nothing that has a 4 times multiplier for weakness on this guy. So no major weaknesses. As far as the regular weaknesses, no, it's an ice type, so it makes sense, right, for fire, water. We got plant, metal, and brawler all hit it pretty hard. Now, you want to consider that, like the fact that like fire and water, it's kind of interesting because the Himbrr actually can do a lot more damage to something like a Seer Knight because it does have the earth type, and the fire is not going to do so well against the earth type as well. So the Himbrr itself is not going to be faster than something like a Seer Knight. Seer Knight will go first, but it won't necessarily one-hit it, where like a Himbrr with a Yeti's Wrath or an Earthquake, or like an earth type move with a lot of power behind it, can actually one-hit a Seer Knight. So if you see a Himbrr in battle and you think you're going to put like a Seer Knight or a fire type up against it, that's not necessarily going to be effective. Like the Himbrr itself is also pretty effective with its Yeti's Wrath or an earth move against a Luminami, where like if a Luminami was trying to use Maroon, it would still be pretty effective, but like a Seer Knight using a Flame Kick, not nearly as effective. Now, talking about the plant type and the metal and the brawler type that it's weak against, that means that I would watch out in battle against a Tatab mostly, because a Tatab comes out, it can use a life drain, it can take quite a bit of life away and get that life back, but also it's jungle jitsu. With a brawler, it hits really hard, and so that's one thing we're going to talk about. Like there's a move called Yeti's Wrath, but you kind of get locked in, so I'm going to actually recommend against that move, because once you start that one, they can send out a Tatab and they can just take out your Himbrr, when the Himbrr can usually be a bit more of a tank. So as far as the resistances that it's resistant against, it's air and toxic. So if there's any air and toxic that you encounter in battle, then you should be fairly resistant against it, so you shouldn't have to worry about like an Avatros or like a Solder or something like that. And no major resistances that it's got, and it does have an immunity to electric type moves. So if somebody's trying to send a Zulong out, you're in pretty good shape there with the Himbrr. So the Zulong can do an elemental burst, and it can do a little bit of damage, but really, if you get a Himbrr out there against a Zulong and you use like Yeti's Wrath or Earthquake, we're going to recommend Earthquake, it is going to hit really hard. Or if you anticipate that a Zulong is going to use an electric move on you, put your Himbrr in there instead, and it will absorb the move, and it won't have any effectiveness on it at all. So that is what is really kind of useful and effective as far as the Himbrr goes. So I would say you're going to do good against Zulongs and that stuff, but watch out for Tatabs. Everything else in between, you're going to be in pretty good shape. Against another Himbrr, you guys are going to go back and forth, probably hit each other with an Earthquake move, not do a lot of damage. So if you do have a Tatab and someone else puts a Himbrr up there, I would recommend get the Tatab out there and take that Himbrr down. So now we're going to talk about what the baseline stats are. So looking right here at the baseline stats, as you can see, the health is way up. There's nothing really for personality traits that we can get to make the health go any higher, but the health already is really, really high. Also, its melee defense is really high, so it can take a hit. This guy is quite the tank, and it can take a hit pretty good. The range defense is not as high, so we are going to talk about bringing that up with the TP training, and the speed, as you can see, is extremely low. This is one of the slowest ones. It is very healthy, it can take a hit, but it is not going to go first usually in battle. Generally, anything that goes up against it is going to hit it with something, and that's again another reason why you go up against Tatab. The Tatab's going to go first, and it's going to hit really hard with the Jungle Jitsu, so watch out for Tatabs when you are in battle. So now, as far as the melee attack, you see that's much higher than the range attack, and the move sets that you have as options here for the Himbrr are mostly melee attack as well. So that being the case, I would recommend for a move set, you guys, if you disagree or you guys have any comments about this, let us know in the comments, guys. Read the comments, see what other people are saying. Maybe they have other recommendations, but I'm going to recommend what I think is the best move set. So now there's the argument against Yeti's Wrath versus Earthquake. So Yeti's Wrath is really, really hard hitting, but you get locked in. You guys get in a deadlock to a point where you're using Yeti's Wrath for probably 3 moves in a row. They can easily send out a Tatab and finish off your Yeti, and it's really not so good. So I wouldn't recommend Yeti's Wrath for that reason. Also, at the end, it becomes like confused, and it can start hitting itself, and it's just not. It's problematic, even though it's really a hard hitting move. But the energy cost is also really high. That's why I would recommend, instead of Yeti's Wrath, I would say Earthquake. It hits really hard. It's got 90 strength. It's got 100% accuracy, and the energy cost is only 50%. So if we use our training and our essences to make that a stronger move, like essentially the Earthquake is going to be the strongest move and the one that you're probably going to use the most there with a Himbrr when in battle. Now, another move that is really good is Icicle Trap. It's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. Every time they send somebody out, they're going to get hit by that Icicle Trap, and it's going to cause them to lose a little bit of energy when they first come in there, which kind of gives you a little bit of an advantage. Though if they send a Seer Knight out, then the Seer Knight is just going to melt those down, and they're going to go away. But I still think an Icicle Trap is a good move to have. Now, the next move that I would recommend, another one that you can learn through rallying, just like Earthquake, is Body Slam. Body Slam is a typeless move. It is melee. It also has a strength of 90, 100% accuracy, and the energy cost is only 35. So if you have a choice between using Earthquake and Body Slam, if it's going to be a 1-to-1, whatever your opponent is, I would recommend using Body Slam just because the energy costs are so low and it does hit really hard. Now, the fourth move that people would recommend, this is kind of a toss-up. I would personally go for Chili Chomp because, you know, it gives you a good ice move that you can do some damage. It only has like a 65 hit strength, so it's not really the strongest thing in the world, but it can actually be pretty effective. And instead of Chili Chomp, some people might argue that it would be a better idea to get Quick Punch because you do like a hard-hitting Earthquake, and you only need just a little bit of energy left, and you can do a Quick Punch. You could probably more likely than anything end up going first on the next move and finish them off with a Quick Punch. So as far as the move sets, like what I would go for, what I recommend, what I have is Ice Trap, Earthquake, Body Slam, and Chili Chomp, though some people may choose, for strategic reasons, to replace that Chili Chomp with a Quick Punch, which can be very, very useful sometimes in battle if you need just a clutch, just another couple hits to get a few more HP off there on your opponent. But then you won't have a Chili Chomp option, which is a good ice move, so if you have anything that's weak against that, then you won't have that as an option anyways. So as far as which items I would recommend holding for this guy, it's up to you. I like to hold the Earth Essence because, again, I think the Earthquake is the strongest move that it has, and if you make that one even stronger, then I think you're going to be in pretty good shape. For the TP training, of course, well, as far as items, back to the items, you could also get Ice Essence, make the Chili Chomp even stronger, or Typeless Essence, and make that Body Slam even stronger because it costs less. So Typeless or Earth Essence I would recommend there. And of course, Power Cuff will help make everything stronger, but it makes the energy costs go up. But Power Cuffs are still a very viable option. As far as the TP training, I would do 200 on the melee attack, 200 on the health, so that way you are trying to take your strengths and make them even stronger. And then 100 on the range defense, because the range defense is pretty low and it needs a lot of help. By doing the health, you kind of add its overall defense quite a bit. So the fact that it does have a lot of health, it does have high defense, but the range defense is pretty low. So I do 200 the melee attack, again 200 on the health, and 100 on the range defense. Now as far as personality, because this thing has such strong melee attack base stats, I would definitely go for brawny on this guy. Don't go for a nimble or anything, it's not going to make that much of a difference. It's already pretty slow, probably not going to go first in most cases, but if you can get brawny and you can make those moves hit even harder, that is recommended. Now if you're clumsy, that's fine. We don't really care too much about range attack, so if the range attack is 10% down, it doesn't make a difference because we're not really choosing any range attack options. There are some moves that it can get in its moveset that are range attack, like quicksand, and it can use the mud splatter, and there's the sleet shot. Those are all fairly valuable, but the fact that its base stats on range attack are so low, I just don't think it's worthwhile. I would go for a melee attack machine and go for that setup that I told you guys about today. So the overview on what I recommend here for the Himbrr would be Ice Trap, Earthquake, Body Slam, Chili Chomp. Make sure it's a brawny personality. Clumsy is okay. Items, I would hold on to the Earth Essence myself. Train the melee attack to 200, the health to 200, and the range defense to 100. If you guys are new here, I would love to have you subscribe and hit that notification bell. I want to keep you guys covered on everything as far as Loomian Legacy is concerned. And thank you so much for watching. We will talk to you guys later.